Beauty and the Beast. Victoria was happy, even though people looked at her with pity and bewilderment. For the first time in years, she feels so free and happy. For the first time, she wanted to wake up in the morning, looking into the burning eyes of her fiancé. She believed they could overcome everything. Even the 34-year age difference, not in her favor. Princess Frederica Amalia Wilhelmina, Victoria of Prussia, who many years later would become the greatest disappointment of her family, was born in 1866. The girl's parents were the future German Emperor Frederick III and his wife Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. By the time little Victoria came into the world, the family already had 4 children, and another as many were born. To find a party for marital, as they called Victoria in a narrow domestic circle, her parents approached with utmost care. They looked into account the opinion of their daughter, and in 1883 she became engaged to the Bulgarian prince Alexander of Battenberg. Marata was already preparing for the most important day of her life, and her imminent move to foreign land, where her grandfather, the current Emperor Wilhelm I, intervened in the prince's life plans. As did Otto von Bismarck, the Reich Chancellor with enormous influence at court. Both found the marriage politically disadvantageous and insisted that it would be called off. The young Victoria was utterly crushed by this news, and for years tried to persuade her grandfather to change his ruthless decision, but to not avail. A few years later, barely recovering from the collapse of all her hopes and aspirations, Marata met Princess Adolphe of Schaumburg-Lippe. It is known whether there was any sympathy between the young men, or whether they were only subject to the will of their relatives. But their swiftly arranged marriage was, surprisingly, quite happy. The couple moved to Bonn, where they settled in a palace on the banks of the Rhine that had been rebuilt to suit their needs. This place soon became the center of cultural life of the whole region. Gathering within it was the cream of German aristocracy. The couple's quiet happiness was overshadowed only by the fact that Victoria was never able to give her husband the heirs he desired. Her first unsuccessful pregnancy was their only child. After 25 years of marriage, Victoria's husband died of pneumonia, leaving her a very wealthy widow. For the first time in her life, she depended on no one, neither her parents nor husband, and freedom suddenly turned the sister of the last German emperor's hat. Without even realizing, it is the woman, valuing in secular pleasures, became an easy target for those wishing to lay a hand on her fortune. Most glib was the adventurer Alexander Zubkov, who emigrated to Europe after the October Revolution, where he sided with the Whites. Zubkov was presented to Olesa Russian nobleman who had lost all his money in Russia, although in fact he came from an ordinary merchant family. To earn his living, Alexander was stranger to any work, washing dishes, laying bricks, dancing in nightclubs, and selling autographs, posing as an insanely popular silent film actor, Rudolf Valentino. With Princess Victoria Zubkov met when she was already over 60. He himself was barely 26 years old. Quickly and skillfully charming the elderly lady, the swindler began to insist on a wedding. Victoria, who had never before experienced such strong feelings, was willing to do anything. In her memoirs, she wrote that a sweet companion sent to her by Providence was finally dispelled her loneliness and brought her new interest in life. Of course, Rudolph II, who had already lost the throne, did not share her sister's enthusiasm. Attempts to prohibit Victoria from marrying a man of obscure background who was her son, or to bribe Zubkov to abandon his plans, led to nothing. The wedding, which was accompanied by a terrible scandal in society, took place in 1927, just a few months after Victoria met Zubkov. Citing access to the accounts of his wife, a swindler has gone all the trouble and for a short time managed to sink almost half of it. Victoria, madly in love with her husband, turns a blind eye to everything, allowing him to dispose of the money as he pleases. In the end, Alexander was expelled from Germany from disorderly conduct and fighting in a restaurant. The devoted Victoria was about to go after him, but the con artist managed to carefully dissuade her. Soon, Zubkov's debts, progressing exponentially, forced the former princess to sell the luxurious palace in which she had lived almost for her whole life and move into a modest house. But that was not enough, and the woman had to publish her memoirs in which she still touchingly confessed her love for her husband. Another year later, in 1929, Victoria died. Zubkov didn't live long either. After squandering all his wife's money, he worked in a Luxembourg bar with a sign saying, "You are served by the Kaiser's son-in-law." Published his own memoirs, even participated in an air show as a parachutist. Apparently none of his brought in much income. When he fell with tuberculosis, he didn't even have money for treatment. In 1936, he died suddenly.